Hey, how's it going, friend? Welcome to the tavern. I'm Kamari. You look kind of worried today. Oh, you've heard about the shh. Come here. Come closer. All right, I don't want you to worry and don't tell anybody this, but I'll tell you what I know. Hogwarts Legacy, the latest game from Warner Bros. Interactive Entertainment, or as it's more commonly known, Warner Bros. Games. The studio is also known for being attached to many other games, such as LEGO games, Hitman, the Middle-earth Shadow games, Injustice, Arkham, and many more. However, recent rumors and whispers around the block are that Warner Bros. Have been shopping its studio around and are considering selling to another company for the right offer. Now, this is still in speculation stage and should be taken with a grain of salt. However, with the current climate and companies and studios being bought out left and right, it's not very far-fetched. Just look at how many other companies Microsoft has acquired in the past few years, with another deal to acquire Activision all set to go through within the next year to 18 months. Even Ubisoft is starting to open the door to being potentially acquired by a bigger company. Now, studio acquisitions are not always a bad thing. Sometimes they even turn out to be a good thing for games involved. An example of this would be Sony purchasing Bungie. Sony is allowing Bungie the ability to continue to independently publish games and develop their own games. However, they will now have a bigger financial backing with that of Sony's. This means they'll have more resources to make better games that live up to the Bungie name. Now, to caveat for that, should Bungie start to lose money or make less money, you could definitely see pressure from Sony and Sony's shareholders on the company to start developing with a more profit-incentivized mindset. It could be argued that we saw this dynamical shift start to take place shortly after Activision acquired Blizzard, but I digress. Getting back onto Hogwarts Legacy on Warner Bros., former senior editor at Game Informer and current editor at Fanbyte, Erman Khan, has recently taken to social media to say this about it. Quote, couldn't get enough confirmation to actually write a post about it, but hearing a decent bit of chatter this week about Warner Bros. Discovery shopping their game development studios around, unquote. He also went on to confirm that the interested parties include EA, Take-Two, Microsoft, Sony, Tencent, NetEase, and PUBG Corporation. And supposedly Warner Bros. Discoveries wants to sell not only the studios, but their licensed IPs as well. Now, why could this mean trouble already for Hogwarts Legacy? Two reasons that come to mind immediately are microtransactions and sequels. Now, the last thing I want to do is fearmonger or get people more worried than they need to be. When you think of the hypothetical where Sony or Microsoft are the buyer, then I would say not to worry at all until we have a real reason to worry. However, when thinking about a company like Tencent or NetEase buying the studio, well, that gives me pause. These are two companies that are a bit known for milking things for every penny they can and having an extreme overabundance of microtransactions within their game. NetEase actually led the gaming industry in 2019 in revenue from in-game purchases, making $6 billion from its games altogether, and mostly coming from microtransactions. Another potential buyer we talked about was EA. And honestly, I don't think I even need to go any further about what that could mean for the game, but I will elaborate a little. The last thing we want is for EA to turn this into another Battlefront situation. And I think I speak for all of us when I say the last thing we want is any kind of Ultimate Team version of dueling cards within the game. On a serious note, EA's reputation has been on a downward trend for many years now. I personally would not be very excited to hear that they were taking over this project at all. Just a quick example of EA's monetization platform, FIFA was one of 2020's top 2 earning games, and I'm here to tell you that most of that did not come from box sales. Just to elaborate a little bit on this, EA made $1.6 billion last year off of Ultimate Team alone. Now, that does mean a lot of people are spending money on Ultimate Team, but it also means that there's enough microtransactions within those systems for $1.6 billion in revenue to be made. That's exactly the type of system that I'm afraid of seeing come to Hogwarts Legacy, especially with some of the progression systems we've already gotten glimpses of. We can already see how microtransactions could easily be implemented into those systems. Now, we know that so far, we have been assured that Hogwarts Legacy will not have any microtransactions whatsoever. However, if the studio is bought out, they can always be added in at a later date or even included within a DLC. We also have to consider the strong possibility that Hogwarts Legacy isn't being designed as a one-off game, but rather being designed to have a sequel or even being a trilogy of games. This means that should the company be bought out, even if they don't add systems like this into the existing Hogwarts Legacy, the likelihood of them being included in future games goes up exponentially. Now, as I said before, should a company like Microsoft or Sony purchase the studio and IP, I wouldn't be worried until the company released a statement or credible rumors came out that made me worried. I am well aware that these companies are no strangers to microtransactions themselves, however their titles have been less susceptible to predatory tactics, loot boxes, and an overabundance of in-game purchases than the other companies on this list. I think they would also consider the damage it could have on their reputation if they added microtransactions to a game that had previously promised not to include them. We've also seen Sony and Microsoft make exceptional games within their own studios. For example, Horizon Zero Dawn and Horizon Forbidden West were very well received from the audience and critics alike. Microsoft has had many successes over the years as well, from in-house developers or studios that they've acquired. That's not to say that they both haven't had the releases that weren't so great, such as Days Gone on its release, but usually even those games get continued support and eventually become very good. Personally, with how good Hogwarts Legacy is shaping up to be, the best case scenario for me is that they either don't sell the studio at all, or if they do, they sell to a company that's going to be very hands-off. Essentially like the Sony Bungie deal, where the devs can continue to make their game their way and just profit share in exchange for financial backing. Personally, I am praying that one of these two scenarios are actually what plays out. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I've waited far too long for a great game set in the wizarding world, and the last thing I want is to see it tainted with predatory design philosophies, microtransactions, pay-to-win mechanics, gacha mechanics, or any type of system like this. I sincerely hope that we get the story-driven magical experience that I know we're all dying to have. Although, maybe just a little multiplayer. But I'll be covering that in another video. With all that being said, I do want to mention that the scope of Warner Bros. Games is quite large, with 11 subsidiaries like Monolith, Avalanche, Rocksteady, and even more. There's also no guarantee that they're looking to sell all of their studios, even if they do sell some of them. Hogwarts Legacy is currently being developed by Avalanche, and it's very possible that WB Games just wants to sell studios that aren't currently actively developing new titles. However, with that being said, we have seen studios be sold and acquired mid-development on a game. But honestly, I wouldn't start worrying until we have way more to go off of. These companies talk all the time about acquisitions and mergers, and sometimes they happen and sometimes they don't. If there is any new development into this, I will definitely cover it here on the channel, so if that is of interest to you, stay tuned. So there you have it. Try not to worry too much until we have more information to go off of to find out whether they're actually going to sell or not. But anyways, guys, if you did enjoy the content, maybe subscribe or check out some of the other videos on the channel. I cover a lot of Harry Potter Hogwarts Legacy stuff. I've covered some Elden Ring stuff. I recently made a video about the Warcraft mobile game and why everyone hates it. So if that sounds of interest to you, check it out and see if you like it. But that's going to do it for me. I'm Kamari here at the Tavern as always, and it's closing time.